The road stretched out before us, disappearing into the horizon like a ribbon of asphalt through the desolate landscape. The sun had set hours ago, and the moon hung high, casting an eerie glow over the barren surroundings. It was supposed to be a simple road trip, a chance to escape the city and immerse ourselves in the beauty of nature. But now, as we drove deeper into the night, a sense of unease settled in my chest. My friends and I had been laughing and joking earlier, the radio playing a mix of classic rock songs. But gradually, the laughter had faded, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. The darkness outside seemed to press against the windows, and the headlights cut through it like a fragile shield. I glanced at the GPS, which stubbornly showed no signal, and my unease deepened. "Are we lost?" Sarah's voice quivered slightly, breaking the silence that had enveloped us. No, just a bit off track," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. The road seemed to go on forever, each mile feeling longer than the last. That's when we saw it, a figure standing by the side of the road, illuminated by the headlights. My foot instinctively eased off the gas pedal as we approached, and I could feel the tension in the car escalate. "Should we stop?" Mark's voice was hesitant. As we got closer, the figure came into clearer view. It was a woman, dressed in a flowing white gown that billowed in the wind. Long, dark hair obscured most of her face, but her eyes shone with an unnatural luminescence. Her thumb extended, silently pleading for a ride. "Keep driving," I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. But before I could accelerate, Sarah spoke up. "Wait, she might need help. Maybe her car broke down or something." I hesitated for a moment, torn between my unease and the desire to help. As the woman climbed into the back seat, a chill swept through the car, causing us all to shiver involuntarily. "Thank you." Her voice was soft, almost melodic. "I've been waiting for a long time." I stole a glance at her through the rearview mirror. Her eyes held a sadness that seemed to reach into my very soul. "Where are you headed?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "Just keep driving straight," she replied, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. The miles rolled on, each one more nerve-wracking than the last. The woman's presence was suffocating, her silence louder than any conversation we could have had. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. And then she spoke again. "You're approaching my destination." I looked ahead, my heart sinking as I saw a dilapidated, abandoned building by the side of the road. The woman's eyes were fixed on it, and a sense of dread settled over us like a heavy fog. "Stop the car!" she said, her voice commanding. I hit the brakes, and the car came to a halt. The woman stepped out, her gaze never leaving the building. As she walked towards it, the moonlight seemed to waver and distort around her, casting elongated shadows. "Drive," Mark whispered urgently. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, and the tires screeched as the car sped away from the haunting scene. We didn't look back until we had put miles between us and that forsaken building. When I finally dared to glance in the rearview mirror, the woman was nowhere to be seen. We never spoke about that night again, but the memory haunted us. The road trip that was meant to be an adventure had turned into a chilling encounter with something beyond explanation. And to this day, I can't help but wonder what would have happened if we had stayed at that building, if we had followed her into the darkness. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon as we cruised down the isolated highway, a seemingly endless stretch of asphalt surrounded by nothing but barren fields and distant trees. Our laughter filled the car as my friends and I embarked on what was meant to be an unforgettable road trip. Little did we know the journey would lead us into the heart of darkness. The map had promised a shortcut, a winding road that would save us hours of travel time. Eager for adventure, we took the exit, the path narrowing into a 2-lane road flanked by thick woods. The temperature seemed to plummet as the shadows grew longer, casting an eerie gloom over everything. With every mile that passed, the atmosphere grew more tense. The air felt heavy, charged with an unexplainable unease. We joked about getting lost, but I could see the worry etched on my friends' faces. As the night settled in, our headlights cut through the darkness, revealing twisted branches that seemed to reach for us like skeletal fingers. The road itself seemed endless, a never-ending ribbon of asphalt that led us deeper into the wilderness. Signs of civilization became scarce, replaced by rusted-out cars and abandoned houses that loomed like silent sentinels. Our GPS began to glitch, giving conflicting directions that left us disoriented. And then, the radio crackled to life, emitting static and a low, guttural whisper that sent shivers down our spines. We exchanged alarmed glances, the hairs on the back of our necks standing on end. We tried changing the station, but the whispers persisted, growing louder and more insistent. As we navigated a particularly treacherous turn, the car's headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. My heart pounded as I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. The figure was cloaked in shadows, its face hidden from view. It simply stood there, unmoving, as if waiting. "Drive around them," one of my friends urged, panic lacing her voice. But I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure. It felt as though the very air around us had grown dense, suffocating. And then, the figure began to move towards us, a slow and deliberate approach that sent terror coursing through my veins. Without a word, I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the tires spinning as the car shot forward. As we passed the figure, I stole a glance in the rearview mirror, expecting to see an empty road. But the figure was gone, as if it had dissolved into the darkness itself. We drove for what felt like hours, the road seemingly endless. The whispers on the radio grew louder, mingling with the sound of our frantic breaths. And then, just as suddenly as we had entered, the woods gave way to open fields. The road straightened, and the GPS finally stabilized, leading us back to familiar territory. We pulled over at a gas station, our hands trembling as we recounted the harrowing experience. None of us could explain what had happened that night. The air had been thick with something unnatural, an ancient presence that defied reason. To this day, we can't shake the feeling that we had stumbled upon a place where the boundary between the living and the dead had blurred. The memory of that desolate detour still haunts our dreams, a chilling reminder that sometimes the road less traveled leads to places we were never meant to see.